Chapter 11. The Hunting Lodge. At last the coach halted. The last few miles of forest had been so dense, branches rattled on its roof. The clearing in which stood the Duchess's hunting lodge was no bigger than a tennis court. The building itself so closely hemmed by trees, they must have doubly darkened windows, already half blind with unclipped ivy. The Duchess's hunting lodge was as dark as her diamond palace had been bright. Patience shivered, and Miss Bianca with her. For welcome, out bounded two huge bloodhounds, fawning about the Duchess's feet. "Down, tyrant! Down, torment!" she cried. Yet their very names seemed to give her pleasure. She repeated them almost lovingly. "Brave torment, brave tyrant." She cried. "Have you been too long without proper duties, that you slaver so? I put you upon duty again. Where's your master?" she added. "Where's my chief ranger?" Up behind the bloodhounds loomed a figure almost grimmer than Mandrake's. Bearded like a pard, strong long legs booted to the knee, enormous hands gauntleted to the elbows, and one of them clutching an iron cudgel. "I put you on duty too," cried the Grand Duchess. 2. Much as she had hated the Diamond Palace, Miss Bianca instantly hated the hunting lodge far more. If the palace's diamond-studded vulgarity had often made her feel positive nausea, the hunting lodge, in all its plainness, Miss Bianca immediately knew was going to make her feel something even worse. She didn't give this emotion an exact name, but it was fear. Patience wasn't to have an attic in the hunting lodge, but a little cellar, or cell. Mandrake directed her to it at once, with instructions to stay there until sent for to undress the Duchess. "As you will stay there accordingly," ordered Mandrake, "whenever off duty." Between its narrow, damp, dark walls, Patience and Miss Bianca looked at each other, each striving to conceal from the other that unnamed emotion. "I suppose I shall spend some time upstairs," said Patience bravely. "To be sure you will," replied Miss Bianca. She gently rubbed Patience's shoulder where the Duchess's grip had bruised it. "I wonder what the Duchess meant," said Patience presently, "about putting those dreadful great dogs on duty." Miss Bianca wondered too. "Are they police dogs, do you think?" asked Patience, "to prevent anyone from trying to escape?" Hitherto, such was the child's true affection for her only friend. The idea of escaping had never been mentioned since they were forced from the Diamond Palace into the Duchess's coach. Far from reproaching Miss Bianca with fruitlessly raising her hopes, Patience so suffered for Miss Bianca's disappointment. She immediately attempted a sort of apology for even using the word. "I meant to prevent anyone just going for a walk in the forest," explained Patience. Just then, both Mandrake and the Grand Duchess shouted for her at once. Off poor Patience ran, leaving Miss Bianca, touched almost to tears, to rack her brains again, as she had racked them in the Diamond Palace. 3. "It is evidently tyrant and torment we have to fear most," thought Miss Bianca. She knew quite well that by going for a walk in the forest, Patience meant running away through the forest. Without them on the scent, even the chief ranger, big and grim as he is, might well be at a loss. If only we could but win them to take our part, thought Miss Bianca. Appearances may deceive, mused Miss Bianca. We cannot all be born beautiful. Beneath many a rugged exterior, beats a kind of heart. Perhaps tyrant and torment are less bloodthirsty than they naturally, being bloodhounds, are forced to look. Who knows but what our predicament, put to them in a few simple words, may not even touch their hearts? I think I'll pay them a little visit. If Bernard had been there, in fact, he was still plunging about the forest, he would have, of course, tried to stop her on the grounds that she would instantly be eaten up. But Bernard wasn't there, and actually Miss Bianca's confidence proved fully justified. There was ever the air about her, however modestly she bore herself, of a VIP, or very important person, such as police forces, far from consuming turnout guards of honor for. As Miss Bianca entered Tyrant's and Torment's quarters, both bloodhounds rose smartly to their feet and saluted. "Pray forgive me if I intrude," said Miss Bianca, bowing back with easy grace, "but I just happened to be passing and dropped in for a little chat."
"Always honored to see a lady in mess,"
replied Sergeant Tyrant readily.
"Corporal Torment, find her a seat."
While Corporal Torment looked about for something Miss Bianca's size, Miss Bianca too looked about, despite all her anxieties, with unaffected interest. She had never been in police quarters before. Even among military men she knew only lancers and hawsers, with whom, after they'd jingled alongside the ambassador's carriage, she and the boy occasionally lunched. Here was certainly no glittering regimental plate, no shelf of cups won at polo or cricket, but a well-scrubbed decency reigned, and she had no hesitation in sitting down when at last Corporal Torment produced what appeared to be a particularly well-scrubbed ivory bench. Whatever else I do, thought Miss Bianca, I must not look I must not look like the colonel's wife visiting married quarters, and so didn't examine her seat too closely, but instead launched out into light chat. "What an agreeable depot this must seem to you," began Miss Bianca. "If you, like myself, are lovers of our famous forests, such beauty of trees and undergrowth, what very happy bloodhounds you must be, stationed in such exquisite forested surroundings." It will be seen that she wasn't using particularly simple words just yet, but most troops like being talked to a bit over their heads, and Tyrant and Torment were no exception. Their big ears wagged appreciatively as they listened, receptive to whatever the lady had to say. Only they neither of them said anything back, and as Miss Bianca wasn't there merely to give them pleasure, or even to teach them appreciation of natural beauty, after a few more well-turned phrases, she did simplify. "The dawn glimpsed through birch trees," exclaimed Miss Bianca. "What rare delights! What chiaroscuro! I'm sure you both write to your mothers about it frequently." Though they still didn't speak, she thought they certainly looked touched. "Or if either of you has a little sister," continued Miss Bianca, much encouraged, "perhaps you write to her. Possibly you have observed," she added lightly, "someone's little sister just came into residence here at this moment." At last Tyrant spoke again.
"Blue eyes, Fair hair, height about 4 feet, weight about 60 pounds, description already circulated.
Agreed, Sergeant Tyrant. 4. Miss Bianca was so shocked it took even her a few moments to recover poise, as she suddenly realized that some appearances evidently did not deceive. These few heartlessly professional words revealed Tyrant a police officer to the marrow, immune to every softer feeling. It was his mournful, touched gaze that had deceived, probably just due to the way his eyelids drooped, not the cruel set of his jaw. Probably he never wrote to his mother at all. "Why, you make the poor child sound like a criminal," cried Miss Bianca indignantly.
Juvenile delinquent,
Corrected Tyrant.
"But as is our duty to pursue," put in Torment, "with the full rigor of the law."
"But Patience isn't a delinquent," cried Miss Bianca. "She has never done anything wrong in her life."
but she might,
pointed out Tyrant.
"Such as running away,"
added Torment.
"They do, don't they, Sarge?"
Miss Bianca shuddered, but with a great effort she managed to conceal her true emotions. "Naturally, it is your function to pursue," she agreed. "And when giving chase to escaping murderers, for instance, your selfless devotion must be the admiration of all. I'm sure I admire the police force quite enormously, but such a mite as Patience, only 60 pounds, remember? It's surely beneath your notice, really. You'd look quite ridiculous, two such great bloodhounds as you are. If Patience went running through the forest, surely you wouldn't pursue her," pressured Miss Bianca. Sergeant Tyrant and Corporal Torment wrinkled their brows. All bloodhounds' brows are perpetually wrinkled because they are such slow thinkers. They never think a single thought their fathers and grandfathers haven't thought before them, and even so have to remember and ruminate and check up. But when they have done all this, they are as stubborn as only the stupid can be.
if so ordered, we would,
said Torment.
"By her grace,"
added Torment.
seeing as it's her grace's orders we're under,
explained Tyrant. It was just at this moment that Miss Bianca, as she lowered her eyes to conceal the contempt and repugnance in them, perceived precisely what it was she was sitting on. Her artistic studies had, of course, included anatomy. What she was sitting on was a very small shin bone. Gnawed.
"But she'll be too tired to run tonight, eh, Sarge?"
grinned Corporal Torment. 5. "My dear child," exclaimed Miss Bianca, as soon as Patience returned from putting the Duchess's wig away, "we must flee this very evening. It is our only hope, if Tyrant and Torment are not to pursue us, and probably tear us into pieces." "Oh dear," sighed Patience, "I'm so tired already, and my shoulder still aches so." "'Tis our only hope," repeated Miss Bianca vigorously. "Also, I have looked at the map in the hall." She had found it on her way back from Tyrant's and Torment's quarters, "and discovered that we are no more than a league north from the Happy Valley. Once there, I promise you will never have to run away anywhere again. Pluck up your courage, my dear child, put me in your pocket, and let us both make a last bid, however bold, for freedom and happiness." Tired as she was, her shoulder still aching, at these words of Miss Bianca's, Patience did pluck up courage. 6. At least the Duchess's hunting lodge wasn't nearly so well bolted and barred as her diamond palace. Or perhaps Mandrake was too exhausted after the journey to go round properly. In any case, there was a little window left half open on the ground floor. Patience needed only a very small space to squeeze through, and lost only her handkerchief in the process. Once outside, they paused a moment, listening. All was still. They looked back at the high, gloomy bulk of the lodge. Not a light showed. "Hold me up, child," said Miss Bianca, "so that I can see the stars." Patience held Miss Bianca up on her palm. Miss Bianca scrutinized the heavens. She recognized the Great Bear at once, his tail pointing to the north. "The Happy Valley lying to the south. We leave your honorable tail behind us. Do we not, honored Ursus Major?" cried Miss Bianca. She was so well educated, she knew all the proper forms of address, and indeed the Great Bear, pleased at being given his classic name, seemed to shine all the brighter.
Quite right, you little atomy,
growled the Great Bear kindly. In a charcoal burner's hut in the forest, it sounded like a clap of thunder.
Off away with you, and leave me to my duty of holding true the North Star.
"So we must leave the North Star behind us," said Miss Bianca to Patience. "Can you remember?" "I'll try to," said Patience bravely, even though she shivered a little in the cold night air. There was a wide opening in the very direction they needed to follow. Tucking Miss Bianca back into her pocket, Patience stole softly into its shade. Underfoot, she felt moss and beech mast, so easy to run on. Soon, as her eyes grew accustomed to the darkness, she was running quite fast, yet so smoothly that Miss Bianca felt the motion almost agreeable. "This is better than one could have dared anticipate," thought Miss Bianca. "How right we were to seize our opportunity." Though the air was cold, it was also sweet, with the breath of freedom. Seven. But by what mischance in the hunting lodge behind them did the Duchess suddenly awake? As a rule, she slept heavily all through the night. She didn't even dream, for she had nothing to dream about. All she desired, wealth and power, and especially the power to give pain, was hers to enjoy by day. Possibly it was the unaccustomed bed, but for whatever reason the Grand Duchess suddenly woke, and when Mandrake came running at the furious peal of her bell, demanded the child Patience.
"Send me the child Patience," ordered the Duchess, "to come and rub my feet."
Off shambled Mandrake in his dressing gown and slippers, losing first the right foot slipper, then the left, in his haste to do his mistress's bidding. After a thorough search of the hunting lodge, however, he returned at a slower pace.
"As your grace pleases,"
mumbled Mandrake nervously.
"The child doesn't seem to be about."
"Not about!" shouted the Duchess. "If she's asleep, wake her up. What do you mean, not about?"
"As your grace pleases. Not here,"
mumbled the major domo.
"That is, nowhere to be found."
Perhaps the worst thing of all was that the Duchess had faced the same situation before, as the little shinbone bore witness.
"What, run off already?" screamed the Duchess. "Rouse my chief ranger!" she screamed. "Loose tyrant and torment! Bring her back, if not alive, then dead!"
Instantly, all was bustle and confusion. Bustle not unpurposeful, however, nor confusion undirected. Out to the chief ranger's quarters stumbled Mandrake. Back they both hastened to unleash the bloodhounds. Patience's handkerchief, found caught on the window sash, was presented to their noses. Tyrant and Torment recognized seized upon it also a trace of mouse scent.
Easy meat, Sarge,
Bade Corporal Torment. It was so long since they had been let loose, they bounded forth absolutely slavering with anticipation. The chief ranger seized his cudgel and followed as they galloped into the forest while the Duchess shrieked a view-halloo from her bedroom window.
View-halloo,
Shrieked the Duchess.
view-halloo, good tyrant and torment, bring back your meat, alive or dead.
8. Do you know, said Miss Bianca to Patience, as they paused for a brief moment, though I wouldn't wish to alarm you, it does seem as though I just heard something that sounded rather like the voice of torment. They were in the very thick of the forest. Beneath the close-growing trees and undergrowth of brambles sprawled their thorny trails across a path no longer mossy, but strewn with biggish stones. Patience had once or twice been tripped up by them.
I thought I heard it too,
said Patience nervously.
Then do you think you could run a little faster?
Suggested Miss Bianca.
I'll try,
cried Patience. Of course, Bernard was in the forest with them, but his handcart having bogged down against a giant mushroom, he was completely occupied in extricating it. Chapter 12. Bloodhounds in the Forest. It was a long, dreadful night indeed to Patience and Miss Bianca, running and running, pausing just for a moment when Patience had a stitch, then running and running again. In the thick of the forest as they now were, they had certain advantages, so many rabbit and ferret runs, so many fox and badger paths, confused their scent. But it was Torment Miss Bianca had heard. Fleeter of foot than his sergeant, as corporals often are, Torment had at once taken the lead, and well it was for Patience and Miss Bianca that his nose now and then betrayed him. On and on they ran. Their only respite was in the hut of a charcoal burner. The great forests above the Happy Valley were full of such. Fortunately, the fugitives happened upon one not only hospitable, but honest. Its lighted window might have lured them both but to disaster, many of the charcoal burners doubling their humble profession with that of jackals to the chief ranger, whom they helped to lay not a few poor poachers by the heels. And even here, after Patience had been given a cup of milk and Miss Bianca a morsel of cheese, and both had been let sit an hour by the fire, it was plain that they weren't exactly welcome.
I ask no questions,
said the honest charcoal burner.
nor no questions will I answer neither, to whomsoever be pursuing of ye. All the same, hearing her Grace's chief ranger's whistle, let alone the bang of her Grace's bloodhounds, also seeing as I'm a man with wife and childer.
Patience looked wistfully at the warm hearth, but already contact with Miss Bianca had taught her true courtesy.
Then I'll just run on again,
said Patience politely.
and thank you very much for the milk.
2.
I'd almost rather they brought her back alive,
mused the Duchess to Mandrake as he obsequiously served her a horrible snack of warmed up jugged hare.
Your Grace's tender heart is well known,
said Mandrake. But even he cruel as it was, shuddered to think of the fate of the child Patience if the chief ranger did bring her back alive. 3. Every bramble trail of the undergrowth tore at Patience's skirt and clawed her ankles. The lower branches of young saplings lashed her eyes, big roots tripping her up. If her fingers had bled from the diamond stars in the Duchess's wig, her poor legs now bled even worse from thorn and bramble. Painful as was the sting of the Duchess's cane, much more so the whip of a hazel wand. Yet on and on Patience ran, Miss Bianca in her pocket, as brave a little girl as ever lived. Whenever she had to stop, Miss Bianca encouraged her in the coolest way. I was particularly pleased by your nice manners, dear child, panted Miss Bianca, actually feeling quite faint herself from so much bumping about. You spoke very nicely indeed to that poor but honest charcoal burner. Did I? Gasped Patience. I wanted so much to stay. Which makes it all the more creditable, said Miss Bianca. Anyone can be polite in a drawing room, but to be polite while fleeing from bloodhounds shows a truly educated heart. Now, can that be Tyrant's voice I hear as well? Perhaps you'd better run on. On Patience ran again. After Miss Bianca's praise, the trees seemed less thick and the brambles less prickly, and she didn't stumble quite so often. Soon she was running downhill. With surprising suddenness, the forest thinned and dwindled, first to mere scrub, then to a mere hedgerow bordering a sunken road. They were reaching the valley at last, and there, just where the road bent, stood one enormous oak. Miss Bianca recognized it instantly. Just as far as the next turning, she cried, and up the path beyond. Run, my dear Patience, run, for it really is Tyrant's voice. With a last effort, Patience ran so fast that Miss Bianca was almost thrown out. She had to hold on to the inside of the pocket with both hands. We've come to a house, gasped Patience. And safety, panted Miss Bianca. Ring the bell. I can't reach it, sobbed Patience. Then knock, panted Miss Bianca. Both Tyrant and Torment are here. Knock louder. I'm knocking as hard as I can, sobbed Patience. At that moment, the bloodhounds rounded the corner by the oak tree, heads down, jaws drooling, eyes aflame. Why, oh, why didn't the door open? 4. Inside, in the big, comfortable kitchen, the farmer stood up and yawned.
Time for bed, wife,
said he. Aye, time for bed, said she. She put out the 2 big lamps while her husband kicked apart the fire. A last flicker of light chased the shadows across the ceiling. The scarlet geraniums showed velvety black against the warm, comfortable curtains.
Seeing as I'll be up at 5, said the farmer, and the boys no later, for all they're still out dancing, the gay gallivants.
Gay gallivants, gay workers, said his wife. There will be hot porridge ready for ye. But listen, husband, to the dog's cry.
After a poacher, said the farmer, that's all.
Send he gets back safe to his little uns, said the farmer's wife. They neither of them heard Patience beating at the door. The big iron knocker was so heavy, and her hands were so small, and she was so exhausted. She wasn't making very much noise, and what she did, the baying of the bloodhounds drowned. God bless this house, said the farm wife, and all poor homeless ones abroad. Then she and her husband went to bed. 5. I don't think they're going to open, sobbed Patience. Miss Bianca glanced hastily back. For an instant, the bloodhound's pace was slower. They were alongside the pigsties. It was a moment's respite, but only a moment's. The thought of what might happen in another moment, absolutely there on the doorstep, so near to sanctuary yet so helpless to achieve it, froze Miss Bianca's blood. At least we can't stay here, she gasped, to be pulled in pieces. Run on again, child. I can't, sobbed Patience. I'm too tired. It was a time for desperate measures. Miss Bianca did a thing she'd never done in her life, baring her small white teeth, customarily employed on nothing tougher than cream cheese, right through apron and frock and petticoat. She gave Patience a sharp nip. Now will you run? Ordered Miss Bianca. If we may but reach the dovecote across that vegetable patch to the right, there is yet hope. Patience ran. Six. Fortunate that Miss Bianca's preliminary investigation of the farm had been so thorough. Otherwise, she wouldn't have known about the dovecote at all. As it was, she remembered not only its situation, but also that there was a ladder inside leading up to a broad ledge below the first tier of nesting boxes. That bloodhounds cannot climb ladders is, of course, common knowledge, but it was Miss Bianca's conscientiousness in the first place that enabled her to profit by it. Now up the ladder, ordered Miss Bianca, regretfully but sensibly nipping Patience again, and as they at last reached precarious temporary safety, drew her first full breath for what seemed like years. 7. All around them, the doves woke up and began to coo. Who's here? Who? Who? Cooed the doves. Do you know who, my do? Too, too, cooed the doves nesting nearest. But we don't know who. Since Patience obviously couldn't tell them, also it was obviously necessary that they should be reassured. How fortunate, again, that Miss Bianca was a perfect mistress of their language, which she had studied in the course of singing lessons. Pray forgive the intrusion, called up Miss Bianca, pitching her voice with all the accuracy of a prima donna, and with a much better accent than most prima donnas have, in a foreign tongue, and allow myself and my young friend to beg your hospitality. We are neither rogues and vagabonds, nor fugitives from justice. There just happen to be a couple of bloodhounds following us. Ooh, who did you say? Cooed the doves interestedly. But Miss Bianca felt it quite beyond her to explain the nature of bloodhounds to sleepy doves, who are stupid enough even when wide awake. Large birds, said Miss Bianca, but they will not enter here, being afraid of enclosed spaces. True, true, cooed the doves, not wishing to seem ignorant. Therefore, with your permission, continued Miss Bianca, we will occupy this very commodious ledge until morning, and then be on our way, leaving you to the happy knowledge of a charitable act gracefully performed. Miss Bianca's eloquence rarely failed of effect, nor did it now. Even though the doves understood few of the big words, they felt reassured and flattered, and after a few consenting coos, all went back to sleep. Are those the doves you sang to me about? Asked Patience, as she and Miss Bianca settled themselves on the ledge. No, indeed, said Miss Bianca rather sharply. They had sense. Now we have but to hold out till morning, she added cheerfully.
and help will surely come. Oh, my dear child, what loving arms will then receive you!" "I'm sure I'll try to hold out," said Patience. "I'm only afraid of falling off this ledge. Will loving arms really receive me?" she asked wistfully, "if the bloodhounds don't first?" "You may take my word for it," said Miss Bianca bravely. But morning was still many hours off, and the Duchess's chief ranger, who could climb ladders, was certainly following behind his hounds. Miss Bianca hoped Patience had forgotten the chief ranger. She almost wished she could forget him herself. "Where, oh where," thought Miss Bianca desperately, "is Bernard?